Well, this is the lower bracket final of Group A in the StayAtHomestory Cup. We have Cash versus Juan coming up. So, Cash, of course, we saw him in the Golden Team League playing for UMAT, doing pretty well yesterday against Infi. Juan, of course, playing for Mouseboard. So, judging from the games you've probably seen of these guys recently, who's your favorite?
Okay, so I will favorite Cash here, although we both know that Cash hasn't really been playing very seriously ORC in recent months. Like he first changed to Night Elf, then changed to full-time random or something like this. And I like Juan's matchup versus ORC. I think he's one of the very stable undeads in Europe versus Orc, so I think he has his chances in this matchup. But I'm a very big secret fan of Cash. Like he has insane micro, and this is one of the reasons why he can make every race work basically. So
I agree. He also has a pretty good sense of the game, of course, because he plays all races to a degree. It's not that he has the most elaborated strats with all races, like maybe a TH and Infi would have. It's not that level, but it's pretty insane. He defeated Foggy with Human, so that's all you need to know about Cash's random skills, I guess.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I taught a few guys that I played Cash on Netis, and he was random and he got undead, and I told him that he was the second best undead I've ever played against after Happy. Basically.
Oh wow!
So,
did you play 1-0 as well on Netis?
Yes, I did play 1-0, and of course Elven Star immediately applauded the replay, although I got wrecked. Okay.
So we have a lightning shield creep by Cash. Pretty interesting opening from the Russian. And Juan wants to disrupt this as he apparently knows about this camp. This is a super interesting opening.
Sure, and I'm sure that Cash didn't get the item he wanted, but at least he got the experience. There was the chance that he might cancel it with a lightning shield, so he used wind walk in order to make sure that he doesn't last hit it with the lightning shield.
But he didn't get level 2. That's definitely what he wanted. His grunt is super hurt. Wow, saving a peon into a burrow. Pretty great plays by both so far.
Sure, let's see what Juan's plan is here. I think he'll just have to camp around and wait out.
He could go to the trolls here on the bottom right. It's fairly easy to do if you find a corpse and use a coil. I think this early game is a little bit better for Juan already. He stole one creep. He heard a grunt. Nice.
I kind of feel he expected maybe a Farseer. I'm not sure if he expected a Blade Master here. Okay, this would be interesting.
Oh, last hit goes to Juan again. Plus the item, Slippers of Agility. Something that Cash would have loved to have as well. First Fiend comes in. And with that, he can fend off the Blade Master pretty well.
By the way, I'm not extremely well versed in the Orc versus Undead matchup, especially on Amazonia. I don't think I have watched many games on Amazonia of this matchup for a long time. I feel like it heavily favors the Orc, since the Orc can get easy camps like he's doing right now with the Blade Master. It's kind of a similar logic to playing Terna Stand, for example, where the Orc constantly hunts for items and steals all the items on the map, whereas the Undead has to be extremely cautious with whatever creep paths they take.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Especially with the camp that Cash is taking now. If the Undead is taking this and the Orc decides, okay, I got my Shadow Hunter on tier 2, let's be a little bit aggressive. It's so easy to reach that camp because the map is so small. And then there's Hex, and then there's the Blade Master, and then there's a couple of Fiend kills. But he's taking things slowly so far.
So indeed, from this point of view, I have always been surprised that that undeads don't like a map like Twisted Meadows versus Orc, for example. I mean, again, I'm not a specialist in the matchup, but it always feels to me like it's okay. It's a macro map, so and most undeads don't have stellar macro, but it's a map where you can you can freely go around, I would say, as compared to such small maps like Amazonia. You can see now the Blade Master is just being annoying, so Juan managed to get the laboratory, but you saw that in the meantime, Cash actually crapped 2.5 camps basically on the map, and one of them was on the side of Juan, right?
Yeah, that's true here. The orange one in front. I think it's kind of a mix. You don't want a map that is too small and you don't want a map that is too big, because if the map is too big, you will definitely face a level 3 Torrent Chieftain. And especially on Twisted, the chances for like super great items are very big. So I think you want to dodge that as well.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense for sure.
So we have the Shadow Hunter out, and Cash is a little bit aggressive with this. Oh, he's going for the DK right away with the Hex and right clicks, but the Lich is here for Frost Armor. And with that should be safe. That's a lot of commitment. Shadowhunter's in trouble.
Yeah, that was a weird commitment. I would have gone for at least a Fiend probably here. I don't think I was going to attack the Dead Knight, but having in mind that he has a level 3 Blade Master, he can be really, really annoying right now. So, yeah, all one can do right. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just thought that it might have been a little too greedy to go for the DK, but he's trying it again here. Hex is about to run off, so Juan could go for the TP, but doesn't even need it. Frost Armor is so powerful at that stage of the game.
Basically, you can see that the Shadow Hunter owns everything, and I think it was a mistake for Juan to go so far away from his main at this point. I think he really should have crapped the Goblin Merchant instead of going to that camp, but I mean, maybe he had something else in mind, I'm not sure.
Second last Windwalk. Blade Master steals the invul and the dust, so the Blade Master can't be revealed. Again, more and more pressure on this DK. Interesting play by Cash to go for a Wyvern early.
Here, there was some weird movement by the Shadow Hunter, maybe some... oh, he didn't manage to last hit anything, I think, here. So, well played by Juan.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, this one went to Blade Master.
Okay.
I don't really like Cash's multitasking here, so the Shadow Hunter moved away from the camp in the middle, and now he was not creeping while he was harassing with the Blade Master. I mean, probably he was focusing on trying to not get his Blade Master killed, but he could have been halfway through this camp in the meanwhile. Not saying that I would have done it better than him, but I think, you know, I mean, I expect more from Cash.
Yeah, that's always the curse of a caster if you point things out that might not be that perfect. Already the chat is like typing, "Oh, do it better, you sit there, backseat gamer." Pretty much my entire life.
Absolutely, yes, I'm sure about that. But yeah, I guess this is also part of the job of the caster, right? We need to say things as they are and as we see them. So, Lich is solo creeping here. The Dead Knight is trying to figure out what... Oh no, he's just letting the Lich solo creep. I think he's a little bit far off. He was waiting for the Dark Ranger. Okay. The Dark Ranger not moving here. Oh, this was a little bit dangerous, by the way, here in the middle, where the Dark Ranger stayed for just a moment and Cash just ran around. I think he was looking at his Blade Master in his main instead. Okay, so the heroes of Cash are not the highest level they could be, so I think ideally he would have wanted to have taken at least one more camp. They're engaging.
Okay, Lich level 2 has the Nova, Dark Ranger is out as well. Web is ready for the Wyvern as it was exposed very early on. Not the greatest storm so far. The Fiends are well split, so he can't hit too much, but Cash is doing great in taking out the statues, so that's a little bit of lack of regen. Going for the DK now, Invo Potion, so he can't be silenced or Novad. That Stomp was better, hitting 5 targets at once. The Kodo Beasts have eaten 1 Fiend, and now they retreat. Kills 1.
This retreat, sure. Yeah, I think the retreat was a little bit late for Cash there. He couldn't have killed anything afterwards. I'm not sure why he decided to stay like 3 or 4 seconds longer than he needed.
Juan is taking out the Wyvern as well, so I feel like there's a lack of damage and a lack of health on the TC. Can he get a potion? No! Did he go for one? Oh, wow, that's a big kill. It's only level 1, but you pointed it out before. The hero levels were already low. It's no level 3 Shadowhunter. It was not even a level 2 TC. Another TC is in the altar for quite some time. It's not looking good for Cash.
Totally. And, you know, he was not silenced. The Shadowhunter was not silenced. I think he could have heal waved the TC unless it was not, you know, it was on cooldown or whatever, the Dead Knight, but he'll port probably. No mana for the Blade Master either. I very much like how the situation looks for Juan right here. He lost the statue very early on in the battle, but he's still managing to sustain.
Oh wow,
yeah,
that's
this will be dangerous. Oh, okay.
Oh.
Okay, I take that back.
Yeah, that TC came out of the altar a little too early, I guess. The DK was sandwiched, getting hexed. He had the arm up for the coil to kill the Blade Master, was just a tiny bit too late. And with that, the entire game falls apart.
Yep, that's now Cash has to make some horrible mistakes to lose this one, I guess. But it's not impossible, of course. But I think Juan just got too greedy here, way too greedy.
Silence on the Blade Master, so no Windwalk possible. TC can't really reach. That DK was about to die for the second time. One feels forced to bring in the ghouls. This feels like a little desperation already.
Yeah, he's at 35, so very, very difficult. But yeah, Juan got a little bit greedy there, so I'm not sure what exactly he wanted to kill because there were not really many units on low HP on Cash's side. So I think he should have just ported or at least ran away, and probably he should have taken the left mercenary camp or just some creep somewhere and rejuvenate a little bit and just then return and re-engage. So right now the game is Cash's to lose. Absolutely,
but there's no expansion yet, and like, oh, Vamp Aura for the Blade Master and TC, nice. There's no expansion yet. Usually at this point the Orc would love to have a tiny Great Hall, but he's not even at 50 supply because of the constant trading. And Juan is not going for your advice, not creeping, but straight up more fighting.
Sure.
I
think he... Sure, I think he was expecting that Cash would be at the mine. I think he needs level 2 Dark Ranger here. Oh, but okay. Oh, this was society.
Oh, this hurts so bad. Lightning Shield and Stomp on the ghouls. Call the ambulance. 40 supply only by one. He needs a little miracle. TC has almost no mana anymore, so that can help.
The Kodo eats nothing to focus it.
Blade Master, level 4. That might be the save for him. Invo Potion, man, he's playing with fire here. I like how Cash is taking out the statues pretty early in the fights, always.
This destroyer can die. No, okay, not anymore. Yeah, I think this was. I think okay. One was expecting here that Cash would be at the mine, and then he would have potentially a unit that is slowed or something like this. So he was hoping for some positive engagement, and then later on when he realized he was not there, he was late with the silence and the TC stomped everything and it had lightning shield on it. So so that was bad early engagement for Juan, but later on he took that Kodo, so he kind of equalized. I still like it more for cash. And if you get the second huge item here, Room Bracers, this is perfect for the TC.
Well, yeah, I think it's Juan's fault that Cash is getting this now. He had the chance that right after the town portal to grab his own mine and this mercenary camp, but he gave both sides of the map away to Cash.
Yep, totally. Well, you know, Amazonia is this kind of one-dimensional. Okay, one headhunter without here is a one-dimensional map where when you start going down, it's very, very difficult to get back in the game, and you have to kind of risk, like you have to run through the map and hope that you creep jack the opponent.
Yeah.
Okay, they're engaging again.
Level 2 TC, not Silence, gets the first one off. Big Nova in the backlight. Silence on the Shadow Hunter. Does he realize that there's Ruined Braces? I think so, because he's taking care of the units. Pretty much only Destroyer. Could use a coil. Oh, just dies. Saves it for later. Stomp on the DK, so that's more damage on these ghouls to just get annihilated by the blade. Not much damage to be found by Juan. And with that,
I'm actually surprised that the Blade Master didn't go after the statues, but yeah. Oh, this purge and yeah.
Nice hex again to prevent the coil. It took Cash some time to get into the game, but once he was there, it felt like, okay, that's my game now. I'm not giving it back at all. Juan is trying his best, but the storms are nice. The hexes are really nice. Orb of Lightning is really good against destroyers.
Yeah, this orb late game is just insane.
Yeah. So what to do now?
I mean, you saw the value because you mentioned that the hex was nice, but actually the hex came and then immediately afterwards there was a purge on the Dark Ranger. So the Lich dies and GG. Or G, just G. Okay, this is the Sonic G.
I feel like Sonic started to GG a little more recently.
Oh yeah, he GG'd against Lover, you know, and the chat went crazy. They were like, okay, you imagine how good Lover was if Sonic GG'd out. Like, this is crazy. This never happens.
Yeah, it's the ultimate sign of respect. I think he did that against Fly as well recently, so Lover is in an elusive circle alongside Fly this week.
Totally. Okay, anyway, so I just wanted to mention something here about Amazonia, just to finish on my thought from earlier.
Sure.
The map is kind of like, it's not a turnaroundable map, right? So for other maps, you can play around and you can be like, you can do some fancy stuff where you Zeppelin drop, or you run around and you make run-bys and try to kill some workers, and then in the meantime take some secret expansion or something like this. On almost every other map this can work, but on Amazonia it doesn't work. It's like you either are in the winning position or you are not, and if the game doesn't go according to plan, the other guy literally has to make some very, very huge mistake in order for you to turn it around, or you have to risk like crazy and just run around, headlessly without exactly knowing what's going on and hope that you creep jack somehow. That's basically the only chance that you have.
Yeah, true. There's some exceptions, I feel. If you get a big mana potion at your natural, that's always... I hate the mana potion so much, but that is a way to turn games around, or go for a secret red spot creep or something that can also help.
Sure, yeah. So items are very decisive on this map. I'm a big... So recently there was a chat with Remo in one of the admin groups, and he was suggesting that some of the maps are changed for Big W Cup. And what I said there is what my opinion has always been on maps in general, that the biggest problem are usually not the maps. So the maps that we have in the map pool right now, okay, maybe after some time they get, players get bored of playing the same map pool and, want the same thing all the time. But honestly, I think the maps are fine, except for Twisted Meadows, which, this is a different topic, but I think the rest of the problem with Twisted Meadows is that the starting positions are random, which means players can get vastly different outcomes based on the starting position, depending on if you land on a mercenary camp position or on a goblin merchant position. So this makes a huge difference in many matchups, basically. So that's why I think Twisted Meadows is not a perfect map, and it can be optimized if the starting positions get fixed, like you always start cross, for example, let's say. So for regarding the rest of the maps, mostly they are fine. The biggest issue and the biggest decider, the thing that most of the time breaks the game, is when one of the players gets insanely better items than the other player, right? I think you agree with me on that as an undead player. So like I have always given this example with like, okay, you play human, and then from the same camp, you can get Brilliance Aura, no matter if you play with an Archmage first or a Mountain King first, right? So if you get the Brilliance Aura when you have Archmage on the field, it's obviously useless. You just have to save it immediately. But if you get it with a Mountain King, obviously this is like one of the best items that you can get, provided you don't go second Archmage, for example, right? Or if you play Undead and you get the Brilliance Aura, this is perfect. But if you get the Unholy Aura, again, this is just some gold that you have to, this is an item that you have to sell for gold.
Yeah. Okay, Remo is here, so you can discuss maps with him. We have a good old TriCast now going on. And
what are we talking about?
Maps.
Maps. What do you think about maps? Shorty, did you see the town hall meeting about maps?
Hey Remo, so okay, there is one problem with the town hall meetings. They start at like 4 a.m. my time, and
but there's
finish
YouTube, bro.
Sorry?
There's YouTube, bro.
YouTube? Yes, of course. Yeah, I should subscribe to those YouTube channel for sure. I haven't watched that one and most of them yet, unfortunately. But yeah, I heard that last week it was about mapping stuff. And what I was telling Neo is that one of the biggest challenges is with items and balancing items, because in different situations, even if you play the same race, items can produce very different outcomes based on what you have on the field, right? So, but
you think that's the difficulty? I think fixing items is easy. Like of all the balance issues in the game, I think items is the easiest.
Unfortunately, I don't think it's that easy. Maybe we can talk about this more after the game, but I'll tell you what my theory about items is. I have some pretty serious thoughts on that I have actually sent to Architect in the past. He said he would look into it, but I'm not sure what's going on.
No one really has an idea what's going on with that, but we have a very good idea that we have a game right here. Lower bracket final map number 2, Cash with match points could eliminate Juan and make it into the playoffs. Pretty aggressive Blade Master right from the start.
What did Juan play in the first game? I imagine Cash played standard, right?
Yeah, both of them played mostly standard, I would say.
Yeah.
Are you asking if Juan played Goose?
No, like third hero, destroyer, or banshee.
Yeah, he was Dark Ranger, just straight up fiends and destroyers, no banshees, just straight up.
That's no bueno.
Yep.
To be honest, he had that game and then got too greedy, and his DK got killed, and then Cash had the game from there. But apart from that, it looked really good. The early game was very, very good by Juan. This time it looks a little different. The DK is already down to 50%.
Interesting creep up by Cash. Normally you always see the orcs going for the claws first because Blade Master love with the claws of attack. But here he went for across the map right away to go for the enemy Flesh Eater at the bigger green and then contest the other green for the level 2 on the DK. That actually makes a ton of sense, because if you ever played Undead, you know how shitty life is if you don't have aura.
Shorty, how do you like Northern Isles? It's one of the more new maps we have.
As a human player, I'm not the biggest favorite. So my, on the pad, the letter that pad produced, my thumb down maps are Twisted Meadows and Northern Isles. I just don't like the dynamics from a human point of view. Otherwise, I think it's a very, very interesting map. You can see a very interesting creep by Cash here. Unfortunately, the lightning shield got purged. Otherwise, he managed to creep this up much faster than he would have otherwise.
Good scout by Juan. This is what you always have to do nowadays against Orc. Creeping the merchant on Northern Isles is one of the favorite things for Orc to do, and sneakily creeping merc camps. These are always very rewarding for Orc to scout for. They need to prevent it as much as possible. 2 creeps died, yes, but the big item carrying creep is still here. Plus now the grunts are all hurt. And that is the middle camp going to Juan. All thanks to scouting.
Sure, I'm not sure though. It's weird. I thought usually Orcs would like to creep the troll at the marketplace instead. So that was surprising that Cash was even there. I mean, I'm not sure how Juan expected that, but great read for sure.
It's a lot more experience from the merchant. The marketplace has the bigger item, but you can only really creep the warlord. You can't creep the rest because it takes way too long because of frost armor. Whereas if you're left alone, creeping the whole merchant is really easy. But if you're not left alone, then not so much. And it's both items going to Juan. That's a really big deal. That's a big mid-game swing. And that's the danger you run into if you engage into this merchant creep, as Cash did.
And this Book of GG can get quite handy in a big battle where obviously the Orc will not have the spell for it.
Also, if the Lich gets up to level 4, you can eat all the skeletons. We all love that. So tier 2 tech, tier 3 tech on the way already. And this time, like, Cash is again so aggressive with the level 1 Shadowhunter. He's not creeping him at all.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the creep route of Cash. Like you saw, he wanted to kill the Troll Warlord here, and there's nothing. So
Cash is deciding that it's crucial to get level 3 Blade Master here. He could be roaming with level 2 Blade and could be sacrificing his presence in the late game for a quick level 3 on the Shadow. That's pretty easily doable with Tuskar and Lab Creep, but also if the Blade Master isn't creeping, of course, it takes quite a bit longer. So Cash is trying to keep this Blade Master relevant in the late game by leveling him now, but that does slow down Shadowhunter. So level 3 heal wave is going to be delayed quite a bit, and that's all down to the creep route. This is because Cash was trying to, first of all, be aggressive for a long time, and then greedily creeping the Merchant, which was not allowed. So, honestly, this is not the greatest early game by Cash so far. He's going to get the level 3 Blade Master here finally, and then he's going to be speedy wind walking away. But is this even enough for level 3 Shadow with the Tuskars? That's going to be close.
So you see, it's very interesting. So I'm a big fan of dynamics in the game, something that doesn't really get noticed that frequently. So you can see how the dynamic of the game was decided by that scout of Juan at the Goblin Merchant, because that basically meant that later on Cash had to run away, and then he didn't really know what Juan was up to, right? So he didn't know that he went and crept the marketplace. He didn't he doesn't know where exactly he is right now. Like, you can see that the Blade Master is just running around. He can't even find him. So this is very positive for Juan, and it has long-term effect, although it's like very early on in the game and it doesn't look like much, but it changes the dynamic of how the Orc can pressure and potentially steal creeps and slow down the undead. So this is very good for Juan up to now.
Oh my, we have a co-caster that actually knows the game and is talking about timings and dynamics and not only balance values. I love this day already.
Oh, okay, are you talking about me? Thank you for that. So, yeah, we were, by the way, Remo, we were talking earlier with Neil. He was asking me how much ping I have. I live in Malaysia, by the way. I'm not sure if you know about that. So I play with about 300 ping in Europe from here. So
kill me.
It's unpleasant. So my results in tournaments probably look much worse than potentially I could achieve with a bit lower ping, I guess. But yeah, I'm not a complete noob. That's what I'm trying to say.
I think that's noticeable right here. Creepjack by Cash, but does he want? It's a little better than on Amazonia, where the Shadow Hunter wasn't even level 3.
Look at the
But-
Lich experience. Literally 1 hit experience away. Gets it now.
There we
Hey,
go.
that's level 3 Lich. That's a big deal.
He got the big mana before. That's really good. And Cash is not ready.
Yeah.
So
This is the
you
difficulty
see-
of this.
Sorry, go ahead.
This is the difficulty of this map, leveling up the TC. It's very often the case that the middle and the outside camps are left, and then what's left over, are gone, I mean. And what's left over to creep other red camps, but engaging into that is dangerous. Juan is really strong right now. This is the strength of the Banshee against Orc. Just a single Banshee is really good, because she has like 3 curses, maybe even 4, and especially on the blade, we can see it coming out now. There's going to be a lot of damage prevented. Book of the Dead, perfect usage in the middle of the Orc flank, basically. The Blade Master is doing some damage, but nothing else. None of the units for Cash are really connecting. The Banshee is now taken out, but she did her job. She cursed up the Blade Master. Statue and Banshee lost here, but still a good fight for Juan because Cash has to get out of here. The speed scroll is also missing. That was the only speed. Oh, no, he has a second speed scroll, excuse me.
What?
TC survives, dodges the coil with the invul.
Oh, this block by Juan once again. So sick.
Yeah, and that's the red camp going to Juan and the expansion coming up, and he has the Banshee tech already. If this is a good item, like an aura, this game is hard to lose for Juan. Oh, no.
Not ideal. What I wanted to point out was the movement of Cash, which was very disoriented. So you saw that while Juan was creeping the Fiends down here, so Cash was just running around and he was not really sure what exactly is happening or what the army of Juan was. So he knew that he might actually be unable to take the red camp. So he was basically just checking, but he was still running with his full army, and the position was horrible for him. He wasted a lot of time, and he really didn't have a good move here. Like one was rock solid.
Yeah. Better play would have probably been to be annoying there with the Blade Master and the Orc army with TC and Shadow. Go top left, creep 2 camps there, the red and the orange that I think was still there, while the Blade Master was still giving info. But here comes a bit of a creep jack. Oh, Shadow caught out of position. Coil, Nova, right clicks. He's silenced as well. And the speed scroll couldn't get him out of that mess. The Shadow Hunter is dead. The healer is gone. And the Cash now, with that loss, is pretty much chanceless in this fight.
Absolutely. This looks like game 3. Juan just moving forward. Cash down to 40 supply against the 56 of Juan. Still holding on to the great mana. Still with the expansion. Already the Banshee tech. I'm not even sure if Cash is going for Torrent Totem at the moment. This Kodo falls as well. Oh boy. What a disastrous late game for the Russian this is.
Juan even bought the Flute of Accuracy. And it's of course a very good item. I guess one that he can afford easily with the expansion. And 60 supply, this is very often the undead sweet spot, where you have a decently sized army, good damage, but still not too big, so that everything can attack the same target. And yeah, more and more Banshees coming, and Cash. Not on 2 bases himself. He's got the late game Walker tech, which is good, but he doesn't have the resources or the numbers that he needs.
There'll be a second expansion down there for... Oh, G. Okay. So we have another G.
Yeah, feels like we're getting no GGs today. It's all Gs.
These guys are very competitive, so they don't really like to lose. I can understand that.
Are you typing GG when you lose? It's quite a topic in the scene right now.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of depends. So I get very tilted sometimes when I mean, as I mentioned, I play with a ton of ping on Battle.net, and when I've gotten a huge spike exactly when an undead is coil novaing my level 5 Archmage and killing it with like, you know, with having Holy Light and stuff and invulnerable potion and whatever, and I then lose my whole army because the teleport was on the Archmage, I kind of skip the GG. But in most other situations, I try to be as mannered as possible in general. I try not to, not to be salty.
That's a good attitude.
By the way, something very interesting that I wanted to share with you because it made an impression on me recently. So on NetEase, it's very common for guys to give you a pause, right? Because sometimes the mailman rings the door or whatever, or you have pizza delivery, and then you might need to pause the game, right? So on NetEase, like 95% of the cases, guys will be totally cool and they'll be okay to leave the pause on. But on Bet.net, it's like exactly the opposite. It's like maybe 5% of the people will allow you to do that, and the rest will be like, no time, sorry, and then unpause immediately.
Really? I think you've been unlucky. Like for me, it's like in the last year, one time someone unpaused against me. I think you've just been
dude, but you are, I mean, you are a superstar. Like you can't really compare it, with us mortals. So for me, it has
I don't
been.
know. Also, when I was playing on Smurfs, I think. But yeah, I know what you. It's definitely though that the European battle is definitely less mannered than NetEase. That is 100% true.
Sure. I mean, it might be a language barrier, right? So it might be that we just don't understand what the Chinese are saying. But yeah, in terms of the pausing and unpausing, my experience has been very negative on Bet.net.
So and you had a theory about maps. No, about items. Theory about items. Sure. I'm intrigued.
Sure. So yeah, a suggestion that I have given before to equalize the outcome based on items has been that similarly to how you deal with hero levels, where you can skill, like you can keep it and you can skill it up later, right? So I think something similar could be done with items as well. So you pick up the item, and then it's a question mark of item level 2, for example. And then based on the situation, like you can pick whatever of the items level 2 you want this item to turn into. And from then on, like, throughout the game, you keep on with this item. Like you cannot substitute it with another one later on. But based on the situation, you can choose what item of this particular level you can get.
Doesn't that lead to super stacked heroes?
I think the problem is that would lead to crazy item hunting. Like everyone has their plan in mind and they don't care about fighting, they just want to grab the items. Plus, some races are way better at just sniping items. Orc, obviously.
Sure, so of course there would need to be different adjustments as well. So maps would have to become more sensitive to these kind of things, and item drops will have to be tuned down a little bit for sure. But I think the major issue that this will kind of solve is that, okay, what happens if one of the guys gets super stacked items and the other guy gets 500 gold out of the 3 top items on the map? Like that's all he gets, right? So I think that's much worse than having both guys stacked up with items. Actually, I think, both armies stacked up is a lot more interesting because you get, speed auras, or healing auras, or mana rejuvenation auras, or whatever. And yeah, you can have crazy combos there if you do it that way.
It's a bit of a balance problem though, because some heroes are really item reliant, like Blade Master, like Orc in general, and some heroes can't do much with items at all, like for example Keeper in the late game.
Sure, of course. But I think
I had a similar idea to also like flatten the curve in terms of RNG craziness. Mine was, you find an item and then similar to yours, it's a permanent item level 2 question mark, and then you open the chest basically and it has 2 options available. Like off the loot table, for example, off the claws table, you have 2 options, either ring or circlet, and you can pick one of the 2. And would still have some randomness and still some player choice. But you couldn't you couldn't rely on, for example, you couldn't rush the Rock Golem with the Blade Master and be sure that you find Scourge Bone Chimes every time. Or to snipe the Ogre Lord here and be sure that you find Khadgar's Pipe every time. Don't you think that would be a little too strong?
Sure, of course. Yeah, that's why I mentioned that definitely, like in whatever way such kind of change is made, I think item options would have to be tuned down. Like right now, it's possible that you find insane items at some camps. So even if it's like just two out of 5 potential options that you can get and they're still random, I think it is still possible that many players will rush towards there because the chance is like basically 50% higher than it is right now that you get the item that you want, right? Or maybe even more than 50%. Like right now it's
higher.
Yeah, it's like much better. So
yeah, but there's also other options to deal with the items. Honestly, in my opinion, I think items really aren't the problem, but I guess some people see it that way. Todd, for example, had a really smart idea, which was, well, why don't we just increase the sell value? So at the moment, you get 50% of gold for items that you sell. What if we make that 70%, 75%, 80%? That makes it so, yeah, there's sick items at the drop. Possible, if you don't get the sick drop, you can sell the item for a lot of gold, which is still a lot of value, which also gives an interesting decision to the player. Is this item this good, or can I go for a crucial strategic power spike or something with that gold that I might get? And also it would balance things out.
Sure, yeah, this is also a nice idea and of course an easier solution.
Alright, we'll see what the solution of this best of 3 is as we go full distance. Last map between Cash and Juan. One of these players will say goodbye, and with that is the second player eliminated from the StayAtHomestory Cup. We said goodbye to Shake before. Could be the second undead right here. We have Cash in the bottom left with a Farseer this time.
That is quickly becoming the standard on Concealed Hill because of the creep route. It's pretty easy here to get high-level Farseer. I saw earlier a game between Cash and Vortex, which was pretty cool. The Farseer was harassing all the time and the grunts were creeping up and making use of the fountain to heal and so on. To get a nice early level 3 and then get level 2 wolves and TC creeping across the map. I'm sure we have seen it all before.
By the way, honestly, sorry.
No, that's probably the idea here. Creep up the Farseer, get level 3, make use of the level 2 wolves and their strength, and expand with a TC later on.
Sure. So what I want to say is that I do think that the best strategy, and many people will kill me for saying that, but I think the best strategy for Orc that I have ever seen on Concealed Hill is what Razorman does. So I think that's like on. So you see that the logic is like Razorman. One of the things that he very much relies on in his game is that he constantly has items to heal his units, right? Because his goal is to exchange units, making it impossible for you to get your units away, whereas he is able to get his units away and heal them with healing cells, right? So the optimization here on this map is that he can actually even run them to the Fountain of Health, and then it makes it much easier for him. Whereas, of course, you can't run because you have to camp in your base, and if you go out, like he ensnares and hexes and whatnot all of your army, right? Oh.
I mean, on paper it sounds okay, but it doesn't work against carefully playing strong undeads. If you know you're playing against Razorman, tech fast to tier 3, get destroyers, get a spirit tower in your base, because it's always going to be running into your base, and scout ahead. If the orc is creeping far away, then you creep in the opposite direction and creep up yourself, and you do much better than him. And if he's not creeping, then just camp. So I really don't agree. I think the Razorman strat is just the reason why Razorman has decent stats on ladders, because he plays against noob undeads like me. But against good undeads, normally that doesn't work.
Sure. I don't know. I mean, I obviously I'm not a fan of the guy, but I think the style can be very troublesome for undeads of all levels, including. It's very interesting because Happy started playing WC3 Champions ladder, and his longest games were versus Razorman. So all the other guys got annihilated in like 10 minutes, and Razorman was like 20 minutes or something like this.
Yeah, and then he realized how Razorman plays, and then he made a spirit tower, and then the game was over after 5 minutes, even if it drags out. Like, if you play Farseer Shadow, it's such an all-in strat. If you don't win the game by 7 minutes, it's over. You've lost.
Sure, yeah, it's tough. You have to take a huge advantage, of course, in the engagements. But how about if you don't play versus Razorman, but you play versus Cash and he plays Razorman style?
Or since we're
That's
talking
only-
happy, what if Infi does it?
Sure, yeah, for
It's
example.
only like there's only so much you can do with that style. Like with all the skill in the world, you can't do very much with just Hex and Ensnare. That's why the Blade Master tier 3 is normally the best in the late game, and is, by the way, not often successful by lower players because it's really hard to execute. When you have 3 heroes, all the tier 3 things, Ensnare, Berserk upgrade, Speed Scroll, and Kodos and everything, it's easy to complain that, you know, he runs in, Speed Scroll, Ensnare, kill, but it's hard to execute. You need to manage your cooldowns well. Shadowhunter Farseer is the opposite. You just run in and you hex and you chain lightning, and it's very straightforward. But if a proper unit plays against you, he can outplay you really, really hard, which is normally what happens to Razorman, and I imagine to everyone who plays Razorman style.
A player's forces are
Sure.
under attack.
Oh. Well, I probably will have to invite Razorman to some tournaments, right? Just need a-
Well, you know, there's been a couple of incidents in the past that make that quite impossible.
Sure. Yeah, I know. I think one of the last tournaments that won. Okay, anyway, let's go back to the game, I guess. I think we spent too much time talking about Razorman. So we have an expansion for Cash here and creeping for Juan.
Once again, the big mana potion. Ooh, undeads love that. We have an expansion coming up by Cash and a level 3 Farseer. But tier 3 is already done and Destroyer upgrade is cute.
If Cash went south right now, could he cancel or would that be too late?
Juan, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like, even for us as observers, it's a hard call to make. It's a super tough call to make for the undead. Because if you're like, if he only has 1 raider, then maybe I can do it. But what if he has 2? What if he catches 2 of my fiends in transit? So it's always a really unsafe play to go for. So Juan instead went for creeping. The levels here are crucial. You need the Nova, which now he does have. TC didn't creep to 3. Could have done so at the lab. Is he trying to creep the red camp? That's not so easy to do. With headhunters, I
A
guess.
player's forces are under attack.
Pitlord third by 1. Happy style. The idea is, you don't need the Dark Ranger to disable the TC. You just split against the TC and he doesn't get off good stomps. And against the tier 2 Orc army, Pitlord is really good. He has a great frontline tank, which Frost Armor is super effective on. And he has a 1-point wonder in the Howl of Terror. So it's just as far as pure stats and
Player's forces are under
unit
attack.
utility go, Pitlord is much better than the Dark Ranger. But the Dark Ranger, with Silence and Black Arrow, certainly also has strong spells. Juan is still not creeping. Still not attacking, I mean. The opposite, in fact. He is creeping. And he's going for a 6th Acolyte, trying to counter-expand.
But by the way, talking about the Pit Lord, I think it became super popular when Happy Beat we did Focus at WGL last year. And I remember that the Bulgarian guys, who as you all know are 90% undeads, so they were getting crazy. They were like, oh, what the hell is this battle where, just the Pit Lord carries? Like, they never even thought that, this could happen versus somebody like Focus, who is known to be a menace against undead. So
Yeah,
yes.
that blew my mind when I saw it. It was exactly that map. Oh boy, that stomp in the middle of absolutely everything. Coil arrives, Chain Lightning was good, Kodo Beast has eaten already. Juan seems like he's falling apart, seems like the Orc force is too good, but the Burrow is there, and Snare and Focus Fire on the Destroyer, and that's the Destroyer gone. That means free reign for the Wolves. Second Kodo Beast could eat as well. Oh, this is a wonderful, wonderful game for Cash. No mana on the TC anymore.
Kodos both got the Devour off. This was quite simply a case of Juan not splitting well enough. Got destroyed by the TC, got destroyed by the Kodos after. And yeah, the TC's out of mana now, but he did his job. Also, that one coil missed because the Fiend was devoured by the Kodo. That feels bad. Juan is getting destroyed here, to be honest.
Yeah, it feels
Just waiting for the ensnares.
Yeah, everything's falling apart. He wasn't ready for that fight. Expansion worked out too well for Cash the Lich. Oh, okay, there's no critical strike. Maybe a chain lightning 22. That expansion plan down the drain, and so is probably the tournament life for Juan.
So you see, this is the problem with the Pit Lord that I just wanted to mention, that you need bigger armies, right? Because if you have something like 50-50 engagement or even 60-60 engagement, Dark Ranger is better because it negates the TC's huge power at that point. But the Pit Lord gets extremely powerful when you have bigger armies, and you know, to do that, the undead basically has to survive for quite a while in order to have such a type of an engagement. So that's the problem there. And yeah, I guess it's difficult for undeads to make this work because I haven't seen it done with, you know, with a large amount of success in recent months, I guess.
Now, the Pit Lord is always a decent choice, and in my opinion, always the better choice if you split really, really well, which Juan didn't do. He was busy in that last fight, microing his destroyers, morphing his destroyers, and that one stomp made the fight almost unwinnable. That second stomp lost him the fight, and that lost him the game. Even the ghouls came in here, but they couldn't change the tide. Actually, Cash is feeling respectful enough to TP out before he loses himself too much. I think he lost nothing there, actually. Really nice TP by him. Clarity's running now, heal salves, and 1,000,000 gold. With his 61 supply, he can go up to 70 here in just a blink of an eye. Red Camp at least going for Juan. Going to Juan. He gets the claws plus 12, which is good. But I doubt good enough.
Sure. TC got items stacked. The heroes must carry very crazy, especially the Pit Lord.
Yeah, I think he has to rely on a mistake by Cash, like Coil Nova Farsia, and then I'm not even sure if that's enough. Love the play by Cash to send out the wolves to the upper left as Juan tried to expand before, and now, as a Hail Mary play, tries to do it again.
I'm actually surprised that Cash is not going tier 3. I think if he went tier 3 here, and he instead decides to upgrade armor, I think if he take to tier 3 here, it was going to be like 1,000,000% solid win. Right now, there's still, you know, leeway for Juan to actually do something, I think, because just with tier 2 armies, this Pit Lord actually can play a vital role in a big battle. But Juan is again going for an expansion. I don't like that idea. I think he should actually go into limit right now and camp in base. I mean, not going to limit, just cash in money first, camp in the base, and just wait.
At 50 supply, that's kind of rough. He can't really take a fight. TC super stacked, as you said. Pitlord level 2, okay, can maybe be an issue. Howl of Terrors are always good. He finds nice angles to do that. Stomp again, decent. Not on the DK, that means there's always coil for whatever is targeted. Oh, but not if the DK is targeted himself. And snare on the Lich as well. There's a coil ready. He can also pass an Invo Potion. Freeze his way out with a Nova, but that's the Lich mana gone. The DK again under pressure, realizing there's no TP.
Farseer is in danger. Runs away.
It's so much. It's just... Cash army is half the screen. DK constantly trapped somewhere out of the fight now. One is getting some kills though. Oh, but that's the Destroyer gone.
Morphing more destroyers, but the 1-2 punch combo of Ensnare plus Headhunters is still available, which makes destroyers lives very difficult. Pitlord can deliver in the late game if there's enough army around him to distract somewhat, but if he's just forced to run all the time, all that cleave potential doesn't matter. Also, he doesn't have cleave 2, only cleave 1, so It's not even that good. I think that's a mistake. I think cleave 2 on level 3 is always better. Don't know that it would have saved him this game, though. Stomp, right clicks. DK has no coil at the moment. Pit Lord just barely gets away. But that means the Lich. Oh! That was the last coil. Howl of Terror. Delaying the inevitable. This Lich is still dead. And that's... must be the game. GG! Juan out? Cash moves on.
Indeed, 2 undeads eliminated in this group, with one of the undeads making it through. So Group A has been concluded. Vortex plays 1, Cash plays 2, Shake and Juan eliminated. Shorty, would that have been your prediction before starting the games today?
I hadn't watched Cash's ORC a lot recently, so I didn't know if I should have expected a 2-0 or 2-1. And yeah, he hasn't been practiced ORC too much, so I think 2-1 is kind of the most likely outcome of this one, I guess. But interesting because maybe I was wondering why these guys were just G'ing out and not GGing. So maybe because of this rivalry that Oceanus Gaming and UMed Gaming have been having for like 2 years now in the European scene. So maybe there's something there. I'm not sure. I mean, I didn't know that they would not GG. You know, it's not a big deal, but it's interesting and weird. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, maybe it's because it was just the map and not the entire series yet. Maybe it's just their way, and maybe it was just Juan's way to respond to the G of Cash. I don't know what's going on in a player's mind.
Maybe yes.
All right.
So okay. So we have one of the German representatives out here. How do you guys feel about that?
Devastated. Devastated. I want to leave the cast right now.
Well, we still have more representatives than Bulgaria, so I'm feeling okay.
This is you see, this is the German mafia, because when Todd couldn't settle his internet issues earlier, so there should have been a replacement. And Duro came to me and he asked me if Laber could play, and of course Laber could play. So, but then a few minutes later, Duro came and said, "Oh, actually, Shake can play as well." So I said, "Laber just won the major weekly cup, right? He just won GGG's cup."
Hey! Obviously, the Back to Warcraft Cup is the major weekly cup. Just.
So I mean, okay. Although you know, the prize pool that Laber won was pretty damn solid. I mean, I don't want to say how much, but it was pretty solid. So he's a rich guy right now in Bulgaria, and I think he deserved a spot here. And I said, by the way, Shake, it's all a joke, of course, but Shake is a huge friend of everybody in the Bulgarian team. He has been practicing with Lex, with Laber, with Fastwin, like with a lot of guys, even with me sometimes. So it's great that, you know, Shake was the replacement. But what I told Duro was that there are already so many Russian guys, like what, 5 or 6 Russian guys in the tournament. So you get one Bulgarian inside. Come on. So, but he had no mercy, and that's why I said the German. How do you call the mafia in Germany? I mean, mafia is Italian, so Germany is what?
We don't really have that. We just follow the rules.
Damn, yeah, that's true. Germans.
All right. That is the first real season over. Shorty, thank you so much for being with us. We're going to replace you by Ankes now.
Any day.
It's getting late for you as well. Before you leave, though, you have one wish that will be granted for the entire Warcraft scene. It doesn't matter if it's about the game or tournaments or a specific player. You have one wish, and it doesn't matter what it is. What would you wish for?
So I think you know the answer to that, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly. That's why I'm asking.
Sure. So yeah, we have been talking about that, and I have been asking guys around. So the idea is that we have something like a World Cup of Warcraft for national teams, of course, not individual. So I mean, we have a lot of individual World Cups, right? We have WCG, WGL, the DreamHack, the Blizzard tournaments that are what is it, ESL Pro Tour, right?
Yeah.
That's how it's called.
Yeah.
So all of these tournaments say this is the World Cup of Warcraft, but we haven't been having national teams tournament for a very, very long time. Like the last one was in 2016, and it was just a very minuscule event because the scene at that time was so small, right?
Yeah.
And we, in the distant past, we had European Nations Championship. So I think it's time to have something like this, and I'm trying to arrange something around that. It's not easy, as you know, and I suppose a lot of people can guess that because there isn't a queue of sponsors that are waiting to sponsor a Warcraft 3 event because of the launch of Reforged that didn't have very positive repercussions. So let's see how, what could be arranged. Maybe we could arrange something in the end of the day.
All right, guys. If you want to sponsor a Warcraft 3 World Cup or Nation Wars, hit us up, neo@backtowarcraft.com. We're listening to what you have to offer. So, all right. Thank you very much for your time. Greetings to your wife, and thanks to her that she allows you to spend your time with us in the evening hours.
Sure, that's very, very important.
If you have any shout-outs, your time right now.
I mean, shout out to you guys. Like, you are, you two are the guys that brought the scene back to life, I guess. And I do believe that you are the reason why Blizzard actually decided to remaster the game. Like, I don't think they were going to do that with a community that consisted of a couple of hundred people and had, basically no social activity related to it. So, so thank you for that. And of course, shout out to all the Bulgarian guys that are watching us right now. I think they are just coming back from work or coming back from having dinner with their kids or bathing their kids or whatever. I don't even know if they watch the whole show. So shout out to them as well. I know you have tough life, guys, but hang in there.
Thank you very much, Shorty. Enjoy the rest of your night. Greetings to Malaysia. And
Thank you.
we are getting ready for our next map.
That was a super cute thing to say, man.
Yeah. That's
That
really
was
nice.
very, very nice.
So, Shorty out, Remo back, game up, no break.